Let's get an update from her live now. Griselda, thanks very much for joining us. You were on shaky ground a little bit earlier on. What's happened since then?
Well, in fact, Peter, the latest now is that the rescuers have been withdrawn from underground as they try to assess what the surface is like now as they try to continue for the search of those 3 miners that have been trapped underground since yesterday. This now means that the rescue operation itself has been brought to a halt for now as that assessment is being done. I do understand once that assessment has been completed, then the rescue operation itself will continue. We're not sure when that will take place. I'll speak to the spokesperson of Sibanye in just a few moments. But of course, I think of major concern at this time, given that now we have 2 more of these seismic events that have taken place, putting a hamper, of course, on the rescue operation itself, as many people still wait to hear whether their loved ones will be brought to the surface alive. And at this stage, I think as the clock ticks and as time goes, as we head towards evening as well, many concerns are being raised at this time about whether they will be brought to the surface alive. The unions themselves, who have been in constant contact and in meetings with the mines management as well, are also raising concerns about the situation here at the Sibanye mine in Carletonville. And, Peter, I did allude a bit earlier on to the fact that of particular concern at this stage is the fact that since the beginning of this year, there's already been 7 fatalities at this particular mine. And this number is quite significant given what we've seen over the past couple of years, dating back to 2013, where this mine has experienced 2 fatalities each year. So the number quite significant in terms of the deaths so far at this particular mine, of course, but those for a number of reasons. If you do put it into context, let's chat now to get an update on when this rescue will resume again. Let's chat once again to James Walstead, who is the spokesperson for Sibanye. Thank you very much, James, for constantly giving us updates. What is the situation now? Have those rescuers been withdrawn from underground?
No, sorry, I just want to clarify that. The seismic events which happened just now, as I said, we do have regular seismic events here, and we are underground workings and safety and support structures and policies are sufficient to cater for that. The 2 events that have just happened on the West Mine, which is some 3.5 kilometers away. So it's not directly linked to the area necessarily where we are operating. So we've pulled the rescue crews out of that specific stope. We haven't brought them up from underground because that would take quite a long time. And we're probably going to put them back in fairly soon. We just wanted to assess the conditions of that stope where they will be again trying to rescue the last 3 employees. So we should resume quite quickly, and we will continue with the rescue effort and in order to try and get them out as soon as possible.
But this certainly does stall the operation itself, given the fact that you've had to move them from where they are because you need to assess the ground itself before you can actually begin.
Yes, I mean, obviously we have pulled them out for safety reasons and to make sure that the area, the integrity of the area is not worse. But as I said, the seismic events were some way away, so as it appears now, it doesn't seem as if there's been any impact on that area.
I think of greater concern for, in particular, the families who are waiting on the sidelines, hoping for the best, in that as the hours go on, as the clock ticks, that any disruption to the rescue mission itself could be a delay that might not work in their favour.
No, clearly, I mean, as time goes by, it's more and more concerning for the outlook for the employees that are still trapped. But that we will continue with our efforts and try and access them and get them out as soon as possible. We can only move as fast as we can without affecting the safety of other people.
But do we know how safe it is at this point? I mean, we were standing here when those 2 seismic events took place. And how safe is it, both for those who are trapped underground, we don't know what their condition is, whether they are alive, and for those who are trying to go and retrieve them?
So again, as I said, I mean, the event, the epicenter of the event, while you feel the shockwaves for some distance, the epicenter was some way away. and it appears from the feedback we've got that there hasn't been any significant impact on the area at the moment. So, we would expect to put the rescue crews back into the area as soon as possible.
Is there any update with regard to the fatalities, the 4 miners who are confirmed dead? The last we had spoken was that the bodies of 3 of those miners have been brought to the surface. The 4th one, is it still being brought to the surface, or has it already been brought up?
I think that situation is still the same. He's still, as I said, it's a complicated infrastructure. There's some distance between the 2 shafts, so they'll be bringing him up as soon as possible.
But what to assure, I guess, both the unions, family members, and all of those concerned in this particular sector, various scathing words from the Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe, who will be making his way here this evening, about the fatalities in the gold sector. Even accusations that you, as a mine, are one of the major contributors to fatalities in this sector. What do you plan to tell him? I asked you earlier, what do you plan to tell him when he arrives here to give some kind of assurance that what we're seeing right now will be dealt with and the necessary precautions put in place? Because clearly the ones that are put in place now are not having the effect that you want them to.
I think, again, we need to look at it in context. As you've said, I mean, this year we've had already had more fatalities, significantly more than we've had in the last 5 years that we've been operating Driefontein. But 4 of them are this specific event. The prior 5 years, Driefontein was one of the safest mines in the industry, with 2 fatalities a year. So you need to look at it in context. Obviously, this is a tragic event, and it's affected a number of employees. And obviously, we will do the necessary investigation to see what we can do better, if there is anything better. But as a rule, the safety precautions that we have in place already have been sufficient generally to cater for these kind of events.
All right, I think I'm going to leave it there. James Wellstead, who is the spokesperson for Sibanye, giving us an update there, saying that they are assessing the ground at the moment following those 2 seismic events that took place just shortly after 2 o'clock. And once that is done, the miners who were continuing to look for those 3 miners, the rescuers rather, were looking for those 3 miners who remain trapped underground, will be taken back to that area once again. But of course, this does put a damper, Peter, on the rescue operation itself, as any delay, of course, would really exacerbate the stress, as well as the agitation that is being felt by the family members who are hopeful that their loved ones will emerge or be brought to the surface alive.
All right, Griselda, that's where we'll leave it for the time being, but we'll cross back to you a little bit later on for more updates on this developing story.